Well, greetings everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News for the week ending the 11th of February 2018. Yes, we're firmly in the year now, aren't we? In fact, I'm afraid we weren't able to make it this time last week, so this is sort of news for the fortnight, the 2 weeks ending the 11th of February. But here we go. I'm going to be starting with some headlines. You'll find most of these links on my main Twitter feed, which is twitter.com/Malburns, MALBURNS, or one word. And you can follow the links from there. But I will read out the principal sites they come from. Okay, starting roughly 14 days ago. There's a lot at once. Voicesofvr.com is a worthy site of for looking out there. So do several podcasts around basically the theme of virtuality, usually several times a week. And they 6:15 had an article on the future, a cast on the future of live action role playing in immersive entertainment. RoadToVR.com, another very good site for virtuality links, had a post discussing the key technology behind Varjo, that's VARJO's high-res bionic display headset. Right, moving forward, I think I've done the ones before that. RoadToVR.com also reports that the Lightfield Lab have announced a $7 million investment to develop Lightfield displays. And UploadVR.com have a post about the 5 things we're likely to see in 2019 VR headsets. Curious post out. I wonder if it's a typo and they meant 2018, but go figure. The future of VR headsets is wireless with inside-out tracking. Another post of VRScout.com. All these are a couple of weeks ago, so you may have to sort of scroll down the contents list to find them. A site called Digital Trends report that on a Kickstarter called Pop Theatre. It's actually POPTHEAT and then just a single R, one word. And this is said to be your own personal theatre that you wear on your head. That sounds like a VR headset to me, but it may be more geared towards 360 movies and things rather than actual virtuality. And Plex VR, Plex of course being the common media servers, a bit like Kodi and various others. Plex VR's version brings social viewing to Daydream headsets. So if you have a Daydream headset, which is one of the ones that you stick a phone into, you can actually enter a virtual world of Plex VR, and you're basically in a viewing theatre kind of thing, and you can chat and stuff like that, or simply go to the thing you want to view or partake in. It's not new. It's it's the idea is it's an interface site that you go to in virtuality to move into other virtuality experiences. Right, UploadVR.com, a bit more recent now. Experience on Demand, Stanford University, obviously. Stanford researchers' book is required reading, and it's a book by somebody called Jeremy Bailenson at Stanford, cutting through the hype. VR basically. Just interesting reading. It starts with duct-taped prototype of the Oculus Rift and moves forward from 2012. Right, scientists are using VR to identify areas of brains involved in memory. This is a post of Virtual Reality, or one word, -news. So virtuality-news.net. And it's all about what some neuroscientists at the University of California are doing, using VR to gain new insight into how different parts of the brain handle distinct parts of the memory organization process. So if you want to know what all that organic RAM is up to, you can go to this link and find out. Right, voicesofvr.com. The Jeremy Bailenson interview at Stanford University I just mentioned is actually available. It's a podcast at voicesofvr.com too, although I think the previous link probably had a bit of extra text. What virtuality is, how it works, and what it can do. Gosh golly. Experience on Demand is an in-depth look at VR and how it can be harnessed to improve our daily lives. And this is a post you'll find from Alice Bonacio, oddly enough, at vrscout.com. Road2VR.com, coming more up to date about this time that's last week. Hands-on VR Hero 5K plus headset aims for visual fidelity above all else. And this is looking at engineers at the Czechoslovakian-based startup building a headset which is actually positioned for the enterprise rather than consumer. And it looks like well, if the consumer gets a motorcycle helmet, it seems the enterprise is going to get Darth Vader, put it that way. Go figure. Right. Okay, next up here. You'll have to check this out on my feed, of course. It's from VR Focus, and it's on YouTube. 1st of February, in fact, was the date on the video here. It's from the Raindance Film Festival, where they had their 2018 VR AR Awards and Showcase, and it's just a little video roundup of that. Road2VR.com have a post about a former Mozilla web VR pioneer launching a super medium VR browser. This, I suppose, is a Mozilla-type browser, but as opposed to designed for the web, it's designed for virtual worlds, and it uses aspects of the the VR web framework called A-Frame and stuff like that. But you can find out more at road2vr.com. Voicesvr.com yet again, number 619, grabbing objects with the haptics glove, haptics, HPTX glove, something that was formerly called Axon VR. Basically talking about, somebody here has obviously been subjected to the wow factor of going in world with this glove and actually picking an object off the screen and being able to move it and hold it as if they were a person in the real world, and obviously then taking and plonking it down somewhere else, as one does in virtual worlds, unless you've got an inventory and you just stick it there. Okay, enough of that. Over here in Britain, the National Health Service here, the NHS, are starting to offer VR treatment. It's a new project looking to offer mental health patients an innovative psychological therapy, all done with VR. And you can read more about that at virtualreality-news.net. Next up, uploadvr.com again. Incidental staff moving sort of business here, really. Virtual reality pioneer Dr. Jackie Murray has joined Upload, which is the site where you'll read this, oddly enough, as Vice President of Education. You'll find the post at uploadvr.com. Jackie Murray has 25 years of VR experience, and she's joined their team, basically. Very good. Uploadvr.com again have a post about something called Cyube VR. That's CYUBE VR in capitals. Cyube combines realistic visuals with procedural voxel worlds. This is kind of quite interesting. Leading edge stuff. This is very different. This is not a hardware thing. There have been sort of stories and betas of games, virtual worlds in the past that use voxels rendering. In fact, even High Fidelity uses voxels for a lot of its, not exclusively, but a lot of its sort of rendering. They're basically triangles instead of pixels, and distance objective. So the more you close in on something, the greater its resolution becomes, as it were. It means if you're viewing something from a distance, you don't get anything like the resolution of what it is, but it's still a resolution that looks good enough from a distance. Like if you've got a JPEG image full of pixels, if it's just a thumbnail, you don't care because you can't see the pixels at that size. Whereas if you blow it up, you sure as hell can. Anyway, Slightly VR is from a company called Stonebrick Studios, and it's a procedurally generated voxel-based game similar to Minecraft, but instead of being like Minecraft with their popular low-res art style, this team have gone the other way, and their focus is on high detail and realism. So if you can imagine a Minecraft that doesn't look like Lego but looks like the real world, then I guess what this is after. So kind of interesting. It is promoted as a game, the one they're working on. But as with all these things, when it comes to technology, you can easily see if it's successful branching off into wonderful interactive virtual worlds where we can meet, collaborate, and do all the things we do. Okay, another video I posted, Web VR and the mass creation and distribution of virtual reality experiences. Again, you'll have to check my feed to get the YouTube link here. It's, one of these encoded links that I can't really read out. But it's a discussion about VR intelligence. And it's being introduced at this very moment, as you can probably hear it replaying, by Tony Parisi, who, of course, is a VR veteran, going back to the days of VR ML. Which is the original web VR implementation. Right, another post at rotovr.com about Axon VR, or haptics glove, grabbing the objects. Apple have, this is a couple of days ago now, so we're pretty much up to date here. Apple's latest VR patent describes a compact VR headset with eye tracking. And it's pointed out that Apple frequently patent things that they never seem to do anything with. But obviously, I presume they don't patent them unless they have ideas that they might want to. And apparently, it's quite a complex. You'd have to go to rotovr.com, which is where this is, for Ben Lang's report. But it seems to be quite a complex system of multi sort of projection system, all in something that looks a bit like a pair of, well, you can't tell from the schematic, but it certainly looks more like a pair of glasses than an actual headset. And it's clearly a sort of unique way. It basically seems to have a double system in it, and the two work together to compensate each other and give you high resolution and better fidelity. Nobody quite knows what they're doing with it, but if it's something they're planning to develop, then sounds interesting. Although being Apple, we'll never know where and when it happens until it happens. Right. The CCO of VR Chat, quotation, "We weren't ready for everything to be on fire all the time." I guess it's just had a very big investment round, and I think what they're saying is, oh dear, we've got bigger than we planned to be. So they got an investment to try and sort out the process of getting bigger, or their degree of bigness, or whatever. That's VR Chat, which I still can't get into because I haven't got a headset. I'm told you can get in on screen, but I can get into it on screen. I just can't do anything. Right, and the final post, I only just realized what this is. It's at a site called Autodeist.com, AUTODEIST.com. And the writer's name is VEE, and then R, ARR. Actually, it seems to be none other than our friend at SciSpace, Adam Frisby. He's not talking about SciSpace, actually. He's talking about HTC Vive and Oculus and various others. He's just having his own little private thoughts there. A bit of an interesting read. So that's it. You can find all those at twitter.com/Malburns. And there's no doubt a few other feeds, links and things there that I haven't mentioned in the highlights. We also have a feed at Twitter called twitter.com Metaworld News, and scanning that very quickly. It's after the show really. Health conditions, they're sort of, it's been touch and go getting it out, and they're actually sadly with us. Was about the safari trip, basically 10 days ago now, on Craft Grid and other places, says Rember's blog. And don't think I have one there for this week, which is rather odd. And let's see, my post is out there. This will be back to Google. Hyperica.com, which is now run by Outworlds, had a couple of posts. There's a new grid called the UK Turk grid, which is English and Turkish speaking grid. Doesn't really tell you much about it other than that it's a grid for people to meet between Great Britain and Turkey, I guess. And yeah, again, a few videos up there, yeah, filmed in OpenSim. Right, I can't really tell you much about it. Viewing them as I am on the my quick little feed at the side of the screen here. So that's about it for the links. All 4 of them, I guess. Now it is the obligatory time for me to turn to James here and see if anything's been happening with the OpenSim developers mob. James.
Yeah, hello, Mel. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Okay.
And fine.
Oh, okay, very good. As you know, I'm working with a fresh new computer and working out bugs. Bugs tend to come with computers. Is that?
Yeah.
Say that.
I think you can safely assume that new computers and old computers, they just come fast and furious, don't they?
They do. They do.
Or the electronic gremlins, the virtual gremlins at work.
Gremlins, I like that. Yes, absolutely. Well, I was able to attend the developers meeting on Tuesday. Again, this is office hours, an open meeting when grid owners and grid users can meet with the developers of the OpenSim server software. And it was a pretty good sized group. It wasn't the usual large group that we have. And the topic really of most of the conversation was about scripting engines and how the scripting engines are working based on the server side. And there was a report of a new, or maybe an updated scripting engine called XMR engine, but it's not for Windows. And so there was quite an interesting discussion about how script engines can or cannot run on the various operating systems. So getting pretty in depth to developer coding and scripting of the objects in an open simulator grid.
Yeah.
And as part of that discussion, there was a discussion about the scripting, about getting an avatar's name outside of a region. So somehow the script being limited to a region. And I think, I went through my notes again, but I think there was some mention that the LSL commands were actually better than the OSSL commands. So that would be something to look into. The changes that have been happening at Linden Lab, are trying. I don't know what of those things are going to come through, but
I would imagine that you take Second Life, which is a corporate firewalled environment, but they've been at it for a long time. So I imagine the catalog of scripts and things available in SL, vastly outnumbers the OSSL ones, which would have been adopted, converted as needed, and have a slightly longer legacy, a shorter legacy. So I think OSL is the kind of thing where somebody would come up with a script when it's needed, rather than the library being quite as huge as the one Linden developed.
Yeah. So interesting discussion there, really about scripting and script processing. And then finally, there was a little bit of discussion. There was a new Firestorm viewer release, and talking about version 5.0.11. And it was interesting that with the Open Simulator, there were some, again, changes with about how mesh is displaying, mesh objects. Where the older version of Open Simulator, 9.0, is not rendering something, whereas I have that backwards. The older version is doing things that a newer version of Open Simulator does not, in conjunction with the Firestorm viewer. Yep. So definitely that was something going to be examined. We don't want to lose capabilities as we move forward in versions.
Well, I know that increasingly. I mean, Firestorm, for example, 90%, if not more of its downloads are people who want a robust viewer for Second Life instead of Linden Lab's own, and their devs are key to that. So the OpenSim version is kind of a slightly more marginal one, and they deliberately on the OpenSim version have to leave out things that involve havoc physics, which is proprietary and licensed by Linden Lab. I can forget. I'm sure I haven't downloaded a new Firestorm in recent weeks. I mean, it's quite possible a Linden upgrade would not have resulted in an OS version upgrade. But there's an increasing disparity between the physics and everything else in places like Second Life, which is a unique platform of its own, and the open metaverse like the hypergrid. And a lot of talk with Mesh when version the 09 series of OpenSync came in is, well, Mesh is going to get broken because you didn't upload it properly in the first place. It was broken before you started. It was just a fluke that it rendered visually in the previous version when you do, your visual mesh became your collision mesh, even though you didn't have a collision mesh. And now, of course, when it's done properly, it looks like a collision mesh and there isn't one there, so you fall through your own hill, kind of thing. As I have some degree of experience with in my builds, which were done some time ago into the old system. So yeah, clearly there is a need to update. I think old versions have been around for a while and should work. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's really down to the server software you're using. So long as people can jump from grid to grid, they shouldn't have to worry too much about where that actual grid is running a 9 series or an 8 series. So as you have the backwards compatibility, and obviously a hill you can walk on in 8 might not be walkable on in 9, but that's slowly but surely. I think people are updated. It depends on how involved the updating work is. If you've got vast, extensive regions that have been built on the rules of Series 8, converting to Series 9, updating may not be the easiest of tasks. It's not a matter of flipping a switch to a new code base. It's actually a matter of rebuilding 100 regions or something. So, but, people do adjust over time. I look to some places, OpenSim, Second Life, elsewhere, that were old prim builds that over the period of time are now complete mesh. They've just gone in there from scratch and rebuilt what they had in a fashion using modern tools. So, it'll be a gradual change, I think.
I think it is changing. I think you're right. It's people are adapting.
Yeah.
So that's it. Those are really the 3 main topics.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. Thank you for that.
Sure.
I'm just going to quickly zoom out here while we've got it. I don't know whether you've got a camera on the left-hand screen here. I'll just show the obligatory slides quickly.
Something of a camera, yep.
Yeah. I think it's actually on our other stage. Firstly, Tangle Grid are still running their sci-fi expo at the moment. Continues to the end of the month and a few days into March. I don't have the slide handy here, I'm afraid, today. But we'll no doubt be showing you on other programs. This slide is for VR Evolutions or V Revolutions, depending on which way you want to pronounce it. And apparently that is quite deliberate. It's happening on March the 15th to the 17th. As far as I know, it will be based as usual in Second Life. I don't know whether any of the events will be taking place on the open metaverse or not, but we'll probably find out nearer the time. We'll be having Kevin Feenan or somebody on to talk to us about it. That is March the 15th to 17th coming up. And the weekend after that is the new Hypergrid International Expo for 2018. This time in March, people are still sort of fresh in their minds from the beta one that sort of happened at the end of last year. And the new one's happening that weekend, 24th and 25th of March. And by the sounds of it, will probably be extended from 2 half days into 3 segments a day. I believe that as well as French, German, Spanish, and Italian sessions, there will now be Portuguese sessions. And I don't know, maybe we'll balance it out on the second day with other sessions or something. So looking forward to that. Apparently, the submissions for it are coming in steadily.
Sorry, I can't help with that yet, because I'm always learning.
That, by the way, is the English version of my Google Assistant, who apparently thought she heard something that concerned her when she didn't. My apologies for that. Right. Where was I?
The Google Assistant or the Amazon Assistant?
No, that was the Google Assistant.
You know, I've heard people talking about, they're calling these things smart speakers. And
yeah,
so that you can avoid saying the name, because they do like to respond to their names.
Yeah, they tend to like a prefix like hey or oi, or but they do sometimes pick up on their names. But then, like I said, just then she picked up without her name. Go figure. But actually of complete interest to some people, I'm sure. I posted on I don't use Facebook much, but sometimes I come across an article that I just shovel up there, like some rock star has died, or an obituary, or arts things unrelated to virtual worlds. But I did post an article that I came across in the week. I forget where it was, but probably on Medium or something. And it was one of these conversational articles where 2 people took part, and there was a paragraph with an icon on the left, which was one person talking, followed by an interruption by a second person talking. And it was somebody who'd done a month's trial. Literally filled an apartment with every single smart home device they could possibly find, and see, try them all out, and also see how they work together, And it started halfway through. It really started to become hilarious because these things are clearly not remotely smart at all. They are actually very dumb, and their methods of communicating with each other just confuse the issue no end. The principal writer whose apartment had everything installed, was just getting, by the end of the month, she couldn't get any peace for all her smart things talking nonsense at each other. It just read like a sort of comedy, although her actual conclusion was that some of the smart things themselves were very useful, but their inability to communicate and actually be smart was one of the things. And actually the article finished with an argument, or a reported argument, because she decided the one smart thing she really liked was her smart vacuum cleaner, because it could get into corners and do everything else and whizzed around very efficiently. And apparently there was some household dispute because she had a daughter, and her young daughter was absolutely terrified of this vacuum cleaner. Apparently thought it was some nasty alien from somewhere, and was having nightmares about it. So go figure, mummy's got her favorite toy, daughter is having nightmares. There's a lot to be learned from all this. It's like virtual worlds really, until all these platforms start communicating with each other and cooperating with each other. I don't think things are smart. They're just going to get dumber and dumber. But anyway, if you look at Malbones on Facebook, you'll see my post to that article if you really want to read it. It's quite funny reading, to be honest. Yes. Anyway, so there we are. The 2 slides there for up and coming events, and that's all good. So hopefully we will be back same time, same place next week with another news update here on Metaworld Live. Replays available on YouTube, of course, if you're not watching a replay already, so to speak. And we'll see you next week. So it's bye from me and bye from... he's gone silent now. And it's bye from James. So good night all. See you soon.